So you want to know what a title company does, basically. What do? We provide clear title to a buyer and when they purchase a home, basically. So when they go to sell the home, they have no issues, no liens or judgments or mortgages that are on the property. So they have clear title to be able to sell it. Does that kind of makes sense? Us as a title company, we facilitate the closing. We facilitate doing the paperwork. We work with the lender, and then we work with the buyer, seller, and the agent to get all the numbers correct. And then we actually sit down and sign with them. So those are our two main focuses: is providing clear title to the buyer, and then also facilitating the closing.
So, I mean, what are common issues you find that come up during your search?
Ooh, that's a very good question, Andy. A lot of times there's no issues. The main things that we've been seeing lately are liens and judgments for like maybe credit cards or divorce issues, or maybe something like a home equity loan that was never paid and released. A lot of people think, well, that isn't part of my transaction. Why do I need to pay it off? It was for my pool or for my roof or something like that. And that is important to make sure that is released too, because again, we're not giving clear title to your buyer. A lot of times people don't understand how a judgment attaches to the property, because when we do our search, let's say, Andy, you're selling your home, we'll do a search against you as a seller, because liens and judgments can attach to you as a seller, as well as they attach to any property that you own. So anything that you haven't paid, like let's say a hospital bill, or I don't know, maybe they're just any other kind of judgment. Anybody can put a judgment or a lien against anybody. I could do that against you if you didn't pay me my $10 for lunch if I wanted to. I mean, that would cost me a lot, but that answer your question?
I believe so. So what you're saying is that any judgment someone's had against them, a lawsuit of financial value, it basically attaches itself to their home, and that when they go to sell the home, they can't sell that home until all those other debts have been paid. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because also, so the only caveat is if you are owning it by yourself, or if you're husband and wife and you're in title, it has to be a judgment against you individually and or jointly to attach to the property. So that's kind of a thing that, depending on how you have title to the property, it may or may not attach, but 9 times out of 10, it will attach. That's what people don't understand, that part of it.
So is there a way that's maybe more strategic for someone to have their title, just say a husband and wife situation? Should it be in both their names? Are they legally more protected that way?
So let's say that you own your property, husband and wife, and I want to file a lien against you individually. Well, you own the property as husband and wife, so the lien will not attach to your property because you took title as husband and wife. If you took title by yourself, it would attach. So the husband and wife, the tenancy is the way to go to avoid any liens. Does that make sense? I don't want to say to avoid any liens, but people don't understand that depending on how you have title for the property.
That does make a lot of sense. I'm assuming the same practice is true for if just say someone owns a business, they're probably better protected if their wife's not part of the business, but her name's on the home title. Just say there's a lawsuit against the business. And do you see a lot of those situations come up?
Yes. For businesses? Or it's a different transaction only if it's related to the real estate. So if they have a lien against them as their business, again, if they have title either individually or as the business would be where we would search versus the individual. So it kind of applies, but it just kind of, again, depends on the tenancy and how the title is held.
So what are some stories you've seen or instances where someone's gotten, just say maybe someone bypassed the title insurance part, bought a house and went to sell it 10 years later, Have you seen stories like that?
Oh, yeah, we've had several. We haven't had any in a while. We have people walk in sometimes and say, "Well, I bought this property, just like you said, didn't have title insurance. They deeded it to me quick. Let's say quit claim. It's called QUIT, quit claim. The property to, let's say I quit claim my property to you, Andy, and let's say I have liens, I have judgments, I have a mortgage on the property. Well, do you go to sell it? Well, if you didn't do title insurance to make sure that the liens are taken care of, then you would have to take care of, let's say, paying off my mortgage, paying off any liens or judgments on the property. And we've had several instances where people are like, well, I didn't know my mom and dad had it and blah, blah, blah. And they took title and they had liens or judgments and mortgages that they didn't even know about. So, I mean, that is the caution of when you're deeding a property, even though it's been in the family for 20 years. That's really, really, I wouldn't even do it. I would always get title insurance just because it gives you clear title and you just never know. I mean, it's just common, kind of like homeowners insurance or car insurance. If you don't have it, I mean, how many times do you get an accident? Hopefully not very much, or have an accident. But if you don't have it, that could be an issue going forward.
And you've mentioned a quiet claim or quiet title. But I've heard of other different types of deed transfers. Can you talk a little bit about those? Just kind of go over what each one is and what they are.
You said quiet title. You're talking about quit claim deed.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
there is quiet title, but that's a lengthy, that's very in depth.
Okay.
So it's a quit claim deed, QUIT. So there's several. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, if you can go over those different types of deeds, that would
Sure,
be good for me. And I know
sure.
this comes up a lot I hear in real estate investing discussions, and I just have no
Yes.
knowledge of what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Warranty deeds are what we require when we are doing a transaction. What a warranty deed does is warrant, let's say again selling you my home. I'm warranting that there are no liens or judgments on the property. And that's part of issuing title insurance as well, a clear title to the property, because I'm saying, okay, I haven't put any liens or judgments against the property at all. So I'm warranting it to you. When we do a property transfer of, let's say, a business or a commercial, it could be a a corporate warranty deed, because a corporation is selling it to, let's say, another corporation or an individual. The quit claim deed, QUIT, quit. A lot of people say quick claim deed, but it's a quit claim deed. I'll say I deed you again my property. I am just giving you my property, any interest in my property, with no guarantees, just no guarantees that it's clear title. I'm just saying, okay, here you go, Andy, have my property, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm accepting it, subject to any liens or judgments. So those are the three main deeds that are, and there are other deeds available depending on the transaction again. So they may those are the three general that are well known. So
Okay. So let's see here. Kind of looking through my list of questions. So wire transfers, I hear a lot of scams happen right around those. Can you talk about what are the common methods that scammers use to trick people? What buyers should do or should not do? That's a scary
oh,
thought.
it's very scary. But the government requires us for anything over $10,000 to have it wired into our account, and that is not a title company um, requirement, is the government. We have had not a lot of issues, a lot of trying to scam people via email. So we tell our realtors that if to get with your borrowers or sellers, if they get a email stating, hey, wire this, here's your attached wiring instructions, do not open it unless it is from us as the title company, because we send our wiring instructions. Let's say you're buying. Another good example, you're buying a lot of stuff, aren't you, Andy? um, I would tell your realtor that, hey, I'm going to directly send to you via secure email our wiring instructions. So then you would have to set up a password to make sure that it's a secure email. Set up a password, open it up, and then there's your wiring instructions. prior to us setting up the secure email, we were sending them to the realtors, to the loan officers, and they were forwarding them to you as a buyer. And that email can get hacked, and it can change one number in that sequence with the wiring, the account number and everything, and that money is gone. So we did have an instance. This is where a lady, and I can't remember how she got these wiring instructions, but she wired it to the wrong account. We were able to retrieve it before it even hit, like cancel it, and because we were like, why don't we not have this money? I sent it, and we verified it with her, and we stopped the actual money from going. So that was huge. We haven't been scammed before. I know some other title companies have had issues, but we have not, because of our secure system. So we are very lucky in that instance. But watch your emails. It isn't as prevalent. I haven't heard of any realtors being hacked lately, but it is very, very real. And you always verify the wiring instructions by either calling in or checking with us and just making sure that it's correct. They can also come in and walk in and pick up the wiring instructions. And you can print them out. Here you go. Here's your wiring instructions. So that's huge. Good question, Andy.
Yeah, and I heard about an example, I believe it was here in town, where someone was buying a house in cash for about $300,000, and it got wired to the wrong account, and they never got their money back. So yeah, that's why I was asking, because I would hate for anyone to lose $1,000 that way, let alone
Absolutely.
$300,000.
Yeah, was it a secure email that they use their wiring instructions? You probably don't know.
I didn't get any of the details. Yeah.
That's why we're very well, because I just had a realtor ask me, hey, can you send me wiring instructions? And I go, I would prefer to directly send them to your buyer. Can you send me their email? And we did that, just because you don't want them to be a second party, because again, if they forward them to their buyer, to their seller or whatever, they are liable. They are liable and could they could go after them for the money. So
Oh, well, I didn't realize that. So it's actually safer for the real estate agents to not get sued by having the buyer relate directly with you rather
correct.
than them being the in-between person.
Yes, and that's why I like our system. It's called Qualia, and it's a secure system where we can deal directly with the buyer, send them what they need securely. So, that's just huge in this market right now. So, yeah, we haven't been burned yet. So we're on a roll, and we've been using our system for about 3 years. So fabulous.
Something I heard online, I don't know if you can speak to this or not. They were saying that you should buy insurance for the deed of your home. They were saying that people have been stealing the deeds, selling them, and then the buyer, or then the person who owns the home doesn't find out that it's been sold, maybe even for years later. And is that true or not? Is there any merit to that?
I've had
You know what I'm
several
talking
people
about?
ask me that question. And you know what? I've never heard that. It wasn't like on TV or something like that, right?
I heard it on a YouTube ad, so I
Okay.
don't know if
Yes.
that's true or not.
Um, and I can't figure out how they're doing this. It is a thing, but okay. So again, if let's say I'm stealing your deed, I would have to forge your name. I would have to have a notary that is in this with me as well, and then have the deed recorded. So it's not just, hey, you need insurance on your deed. No, you don't need that. People are going to. You'd have to forge the entire document and have it recorded. So it's not just one person doing the scamming per se. So I don't know how they're doing it, but if they are, good. I don't want to say good for them, but you don't need insurance for your deed. That is not, no.
Okay, yeah, because when I heard that, it's a scary thing to think about as a
It
homeowner, that
is.
someone may steal my house and I don't even know it and I'm living there. So what you're
Yes.
saying is, for the average person, we really don't need to worry about that happening, because the chances are, well, very slim, but it sounds like, more importantly, the list of things they have to do is so extensive and so fraudulent that it can be overturned.
Oh, I would think so. I don't see that, because you can just, I haven't heard of anybody having that happen to them. But you have the deed. What are they going to, I don't know if they're trying to sell you insurance because of that, or if, I just don't know how to me, that doesn't seem like it's an easy thing to do. So I don't know if it's being done a lot, or people being I don't know, scandalous that way. I'm not 100% sure, but I've had several people ask me that question. And I'm like, it just seems really with the transactions that we do that it would involve more than just what they were thinking. It's not easy. So,
1 second here. I had a question I wanted to go over, and it was a good question. It just slipped my mind. That's irritating. Oh, so what are the common things that, let me start over. How do I want to phrase this? What is title and, let me start over.
you're fine.
What does title insurance not cover? What are common things that after a closing, someone calls you and says, hey, you missed this on my title insurance, but in fact, that's not what you were even looking for to begin with?
Hmm, that is a loaded question. So when you purchase a home, title insurance, I'm gonna compare title insurance and homeowners insurance. So title insurance is good through the date of closing and prior. So when we do our search, we do a search up to that date, and so we're searching for liens and judgments in the past. Okay, so you're good through date. So let's say it's today, you close today, and the title insurance is dated today when you get your policy. And then you have a lien come aboard that is dated after that. Let's say in June or something like that, and you're selling your house in July. Let's say a homeowners association dues lien against the property. Well, that isn't covered because it was after the title insurance was issued. Homeowners insurance is for the future. So when you buy homeowners insurance and then something happens, you bought it today because you bought the home and it's good starting today, but it's going forward. Does that answer your question? So it could be any lien or judgment after the fact, after the date of closing. So anything that we would miss would be, it would have to be in the past. So if it was anything in December, let's say, let's say we missed a mortgage, and we've missed a mortgage before, and people, just because it wasn't, the legal description wasn't correct, the something just wasn't recorded correctly, but then that is up to us to make that right by having that mortgage released, or paying it off. The title insurance amount that we are guaranteeing is up to the value of the home. So when you look at your policy, it is based on the sales price of the home. So let's say you're purchasing a home for 100,000, and a lien comes into effect that we missed for 150. So we would only be paying up to $100,000 to remedy that situation. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like your homeowner's insurance dollar amount of your coverage. So when you review your coverage, you can always get more coverage if you want, but the sales price is the driving factor of the owner's policy.
That makes a lot of sense. So basically, someone can't come after the title company for more than the house is worth. It's just guaranteeing that they're not going to sustain a loss of more than they're paying for the home because
Yes,
of title
absolutely.
issues. Do you ever have code violations that maybe come up but haven't been recorded? I'm just thinking of
Oh,
things I've heard, and
yes, the neighborhood code is, um, if they're, oh man, how do I explain this? Neighborhood code, they put let's say a property is in the destructive code. They'll have 10, let's say weed lanes. I can't think of what are other lanes that are on there. Windows or just non-compliance. Let's say they have 4 or 5 of those. Those do show up, and there's so many right now that they are a little bit behind. So we always check with them if there's something maybe pending. We'll know in the price range and the property if it might be applicable. We work a lot with Leslie over at the neighborhood code, and she's very, very good at getting back to the title companies and helping us resolve those issues. So it just may take a little bit longer to close.
okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So another question I wanted to ask you is, when someone goes to resell their home, is it significantly cheaper to use the same title company that they used when they bought their home?
Ooh, Where are you coming up with these questions, Andy? These are great. Absolutely. So we provide a prior policy discount for anything that is under 10 years and under. So it doesn't have to be just Trademark. Any title company that you have your policy from, we give a discount for. So that's why it's important to, number one, locate your prior policy and know where it is and know who you closed it with. If you don't have your policy in your file, you need to get it. So it's within 10 years, you do get a discount. I don't know about the other title companies if they have a rule like that, but ours is 10 years. So yes, it saves you significantly. We base the discount on the prior policy amount. So let's say, Andy, you bought your home at 100,000 and you're selling it for 200,000. Well, we give you the discount based on the 100,000. So yes, and you don't have to go back to the same title company. You just go to us all day long. Good
Okay.
plug, right?
Yeah, I like that. Let's see. Maybe talk about poor ways that people do land contracts that end up negatively affecting the title insurance process.
I have to do 4 ways. Did you say 4 or some ways?
Poor. Talk
Poor
about,
ways.
yeah.
Oh,
Let me rephrase the question. What are some poor ways that people do land contracts that really come back and add a lot of headaches and hassle on your end when they go to sell the property?
ooh, land contracts. Land contracts can be really good for the buyer and seller depending on the transaction if it is handled correctly. First of all, the purchase agreement states that you're doing a land contract, the financing terms. So you do need to get with your real estate agent and making sure that that is done correctly first, and then we connect with the attorneys that prepare a land contract. So that is the process that is the best for each party, because then the land contract is recorded, and then the let me think of how to say this. So you're editing, right? So with the land contract, as long as it is handled from the beginning to the end correctly, and you can do title insurance to make sure that there's no liens. So if I'm buying your home on land contract, how do I know you don't have a whole lot of liens on the property? Why would I buy that property on land contract knowing that, if I go to buy it at the end, that you're not going to give me clear title anyway? So we actually do a closing the same way as a regular purchase closing, and making sure that there's no liens and judgments on the property for the contract homeowner. Any issues? A lot of issues that come aboard where the people aren't paying on time. Let's say they just leave. So I'm buying your property on land contract, and one day I just get up and leave, and I've been paying you for 5 or 6 years. So I have a little bit of an interest in the property, right? So to be able to distinguish that interest, we would require a quitclaim deed extinguishing my interest in the property. If I've only been paying for like a year, there's really no interest because I haven't made that many payments to you. But if there's a substantial interest in the property, that would hinder you, Andy, from selling the property, because I have an interest in the property, and that doesn't just go away because I'm gone, because the land contract is recorded. Does that kind of make sense? Because they do have an interest in the property. It's kind of like leasing to own, if you look at it that way. So that is the biggest issue. And let's say, maybe some liens or judgments come up against you. That is another hindrance for me. The people fleeing and not being able to distinguish their interest is the biggest headache when it comes to land contracts, or not having it correct and recorded correctly, or even them being the buyer and seller, understanding the whole transaction. So if it's explained to each party correctly, I think that helps as well.
So the person who's selling a house on a land contract, their big risk is the tenant or the buyer fleeing the coop and leaving, and then having to get multiple people in there. And then the person buying the home, their risk, I guess, would be twofold. Number one, making sure that there aren't a bunch of people before them that have a partial claim to the property, and that the seller doesn't have liens currently or you're assuming that he won't have liens at the time of closing. Are those the two big risks for the
Yes.
buyer?
Yes. Well, and let's say also that I'm paying you on land contract. Well, if you're not current on your mortgage, the lender could foreclose, and then I'm out of home. So how do I know that you're current? Because let's say you're renting it out and you have a mortgage. I'm buying it on land contract. My payment is used to make your payment, but let's say there's a gap in there or you're behind. They could foreclose, and then there's no guarantee that, unless there's wording in the contract stating that you will be current on your mortgage payment, which that is usually a standard in the land contract.
And do you do quick searches for people buying houses on land contract? That way they can have some assurance that as of the current moment, there's not a bunch of liens against the house or the person they're buying the house from, because the title wouldn't transfer until the house is paid off. Or how does that work?
We do an actual policy at the beginning of the transaction. They provide a policy, or we can do a property report. But again, a property report is not a policy, so it isn't a guarantee. It's just hey, we're going to look at the property, make sure that there's no liens and judgments, and that is just a search per se versus actual policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So a search, you're just going in and kind of giving a quick history of the property, whereas with a policy, you're giving someone a warranty or a guarantee. Is that the difference?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, because the property search only goes back to the last deed of record. So, because unless you want us to go back farther, and then there's just an extra charge for that. But because it's just saying if the taxes are up to date, if the title is clear and there's no liens and judgments.
Okay, so a different topic I wanted to talk about. You have a lot of people who come in for sale by owner, and they don't have a realtor guiding them. And a lot of people don't realize the value of a good realtor probably until they're in the midst of trying to do some of this legal paperwork. What are some of the common problems you see with people who go the for sale by owner route?
Are we here for a whole hour? A lot of people are doing it for sale by owner because of cost right now. They're doing it for saving money and just thinking that they can do it because of the market, which I understand that. But again, you and I both know the value of having someone in your corner, someone
I'm losing your audio. One second, you're frozen. I can hear like every other syllable.
Someone that you do this, they don't understand how to put the purchase.
You're back now. I hate to say it. Maybe you didn't hear me, but you cut out the entire time there. Yeah. So let's start back at the question.
Okay.
Question again.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't realize when they're doing a for sale by owner that a realtor brings a lot of value to the process, specifically with some of the paperwork and preparing people for title insurance. So what are some of the common mistakes or problems people run into when they're doing a for sale by owner, but obviously not going through a realtor? What are the problems that you see?
That again, very good question. You have way too many questions now. The for sale by owner process, a lot of people are doing that to save money, which I understand. But again, you and I are on the same page as the value of having somebody in your corner and somebody to advise you, because that is what they do. A lot of times people will call up and go, well, can I get costs for, I'm doing it for sale by owner. What are my costs? Well, it kind of depends on what you're paying for. If you as the seller or you as the buyer are paying for, well, I don't know. I've never done this before. Well, so that's one of the issues. But another issue is that they ask us to prepare a purchase agreement. Well, I'm not going to do that because that is a legal document and that should be handled by an attorney, or if you want to do it yourself, go online, review that, and make sure that you fill it out. A lot of times people don't know what they're signing. They don't know what the costs are. They don't know the ramifications of maybe inspections, things like that, or appraisals. And I don't see a lot of that part of it if there's a lender involved, but I see a lot of the part where there's a lien or a judgment and they go, well, what does that mean? What is that? How does that affect the transaction? Um, they just, they're very, very out there I don't want to say just out there, and they understand it to a certain extent, but then they don't, well, I thought I would net this. And they don't understand the proration of taxes are a big, huge thing. It depends on when you close. And that's just for another time, but it can be a cost to a seller depending on when you close. And it's a credit to your buyer usually if you're prorating. That is a big issue in paying off liens and judgments, and just understanding the cost and the process, from the beginning to the end, appraisal, putting together the title search, things like that. Well, you don't have anybody to help you and guide you and hold your hand along the way. And that they want us as a title company to help them with that. And so they're calling in all the time, asking us questions. So as a for sale by owner, we do help in the transaction, but there is an increased cost because of our time. So because they're not paying for a realtor, so they're calling us, asking us a lot of questions. If you've done it before, that's great, but just beware. The biggest thing is if you're splitting a property, let's say you have 10 acres and you're selling me 5 acres. Well, that can be a whole another ball of wax regarding a survey, regarding taxes, because taxes are on the full parcel. So, Andy, am I going to get the credit for the whole parcel? Am I going to get credit for the part that I'm buying? That has to be specific in your purchase agreement. And we had one transaction where some people were upset because they didn't get as much as they thought they were getting because of that, but they didn't put in the agreement the way that they really wanted the taxes. And we were at closing, so we couldn't do anything unless we, reclosed. So that would be a big thing with a for sale by owner, understanding that process. If you're splitting the property, and we've been seeing that a lot more now too, where people are selling off acreages, to their homes, and people are building because they can't find anything. But just getting help and understanding the process is a big, big issue.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't have any other things on my agenda for today. So what are some other things that what are some things that you are educating realtors on, whether they've been in the business for years or just starting out? What's some good pieces of advice for realtors?
Ooh, read your title commitment. When we issue the title commitment, it's helpful because you understand what the requirements are going from the beginning to the end. So the requirements would be, paying off the mortgage, paying off a lien or a judgment. And sometimes the lien or judgment is not the person. So, somebody that like James Smith, let's say, maybe that's not their judgment, because that's a pretty common name, right? So what we would do is verify the, social security number against the lien. So just reading your title commitment and understanding that part of it, I educate people on that. Another thing that is we've been seeing a lot of are trusts and power of attorneys as sellers and buyers. So that is important to know how the people are taking title, and if they're selling, how they have title to the property. Because let's say, Andy, you're selling your home and it's in a trust. Well, just signing your name to me and not sharing with the title company that it's in a trust, I don't know that until it's like after we do our search. Okay, Andy, you have it in a trust, so I need additional paperwork to make sure that you're able to be the signer at the closing. So, understanding that process and understanding if, the people that you're dealing with is huge. And just educating, the agents on understanding title and understanding vesting as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, any other I'm still trying to learn how to interview.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I don't know, just make sure that you contact your title company if you have questions, because I mean, as agents and as title reps, we don't always know the answer. I'm always learning, and each transaction can be just different because of all the things in the market, just because of all of um, just the what is the word, intricacies? Yes. Ooh, I said it. Intricacies of how people take title. They don't, they took title 10 years ago a as a trust, and they forgot all about it. Or let's say, me and you and your wife have title, and you thought, well, Melinda's in title still. Well, I thought I got rid of her, a long time ago. Things like that, because in just making sure um, that you understand what you're dealing with, I guess, is a big thing. And getting with your title company when we have questions. We try and have it very streamlined till we working with the agents and the lenders, just to make it a smooth process. But if we're reaching out to you, then we do need help on an issue. We are have very good processors, have very good people that handle the transaction, but sometimes we need a little bit of help. And we're here to help everyone, so we make it a smooth process for buyers, sellers, and agents and lenders. So,
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this. And
this was helpful for me too, just to be able to understand where individuals are coming from too.
mhm.
That helps me, because a lot of people, they don't understand. They think title insurance is like home insurance, and some people say, "Do you need that?" Absolutely, you do not. But do you need a homeowner's insurance? Do you need car insurance? You look at it that way, you can forego it if you want. You can, but there are risks involved. Just like if you don't have homeowners and car insurance, and you get in an accident or something happens, you're going to pay out of pocket yourself, and it could be detrimental.
Yeah, it's a risk I would not want to take with a
I,
house. I mean,
I
unless,
would not.
yeah.
No, no.
Okay. Well, thank you. I do appreciate it.